Nod your head or shake your head. Not sure? Yeah, supported. Number 2, by the way, these were hypotheses that we actually sincerely hypothesized as being true. Okay. Number 2, larger companies will show greater due diligence on human rights. True or not true? Not true. Some nod, some shake. Number 3, companies will show greater due diligence on labor rights and BEE, as these human rights categories are relatively well represented in government regulations. True? Yes. Some say, most say yes. Number 4, companies with explicit leadership commitments on human rights will show greater due diligence on human rights. Yes? Okay, most say yes. Bear in mind that there's concern about greenwash and that actually you can't actually trust what leaders say, some would say. Number 5, now getting some controversial hypotheses, but I mean, we thought they were very, very clear. If you're a member of the JCSI index, you will show greater due diligence. Some shaking of heads, okay. Now, number 6 here, Global Compact. We've been talking about the Global Compact. If you are a member of the Global Compact, will you, in terms of our methodology, I mean, which is open to questioning, of course, but in terms of our survey, do you think that Global Compact membership means that you're actually showing greater diligence on human rights issues in your public reports? You're supposed to agree. We've been talking about the Global Compact for the last 2 days. And how, you know. So anyway, this is the statistics gave us actually this picture. Red is not statistically supported. Green is statistically supported. So it's perhaps not quite fair to give you the snapshot of this research, and those of you that want more information can look up the paper that's been published in the Journal of Business Ethics. But basically we were, the extractive sector was not generally more diligent, except on community impact issues, which makes sense because of the relationship. Right? Larger companies, that was not supported. The 2 that were supported the most clearest were the issue of greater emphasis on BEE and labor rights. And then the strongest statistical support was the role of leadership commitment. However, the ones that really surprised me were that if you're a member of the JCSI Index or the Global Compact, that doesn't seem to make a statistical inference that you have a greater more diligent approach to human rights. So we were quite surprised by these things, and I think a couple of other people have been as well. Anyway, the last third of the presentation is now to say where's some of the, what at least personally and some of us in this field, where's the frontier in a sense? And this is part of an evolution that I think is a bit simplistic, but let's just go with it for now. So we have this evolution from CSR as philanthropy, then taking it more into core business. And then, and this is where the Global Compact I think is very strong, is recognizing the potential for collective action between businesses, and then to also collaborate with other sectors. We heard about this from Prof. The professor yesterday speaking about this. Futi mentioned it this morning as well. Oliver Williams speaking about it. But the one particular challenge there is the issue of collusion. We don't want to get companies to collude. Futi talked about the food collusion, the price fixing. But at the same time, perhaps we want collaboration on other things, for instance, in things that are of public interest. So this idea, the conceptual frame for this is this idea of co-opetition, which I think this is a really interesting book that I can recommend to you as well. And recognizing that all the time companies compete and cooperate at the same time. Question is, how do they do it? How effectively do they do it? How do we frame that kind of co-opetition, as it were? And the topic that came from companies when we spoke to them about this concept was we were talking to retail companies, Woolworths, Pick and Pay, etc., and they said you need to look at the issue of food pricing. Collusion is one part of it, but there's a bigger picture. There's value chains at stake. There's efficiency issues. There's government policies. And the context is that even in Cape Town, 8 out of 10 people in the poor areas are food insecure. This is very recent research that colleagues of mine in our department, my previous department, conducted. And I think it's a very shocking statistic. because we recognize Cape Town as being one of the richest cities in southern Africa. And nevertheless, if you go to Nyanga, Gugulethu, etc., 8 out of 10 people are not always sure of a meal. And we also recognize that the United Nations at least emphasizes that business has a role to play in this food crisis that started in 2008 and is still ongoing. So let me just go over, skip some of these things because I'm running out of time. What we've been doing for this last year and a half is taking key players out of the system, from this food system, in terms of the entire value chain, all the way from production, manufacturing, logistics, retail, wholesale retail, as well as government officials, as well as NGOs, through this structured process of quite intense interactions. We had a first workshop beginning of last year, but the actual Change Lab process started this year with some 2-hour interviews with key players. We're taking them now, next month in fact, we're taking them on learning journeys where we put them into a bus and we drive them. Let's say in Cape Town we've got 2 learning journeys. One of them is going to visit issues around the metropolitan area. One of them is going to go to grain growing areas where people can talk with each other but also talk to people in the field and say, what are the challenges in producing food, taking it across the value chain and onto people's plates. And I think that's already been brought up some really interesting issues around companies understanding how they are part of a bigger system that is inherently complex, socially complex, causally complex, emergent system. And how small shifts to that system, not just to the business itself, but to the way the business interacts with the bigger system, can actually create quite fundamental benefits, we hope, to food security.